A month ago, I bought the Adamson B10 bed cooling system for £243 in the UK, and I've used it every night since. I have to admit though, I was a bit nervous about this one at first. Some design choices baffled me, and even the manual warns you to put the cooling unit inside a basin when you set it up due to the risk of overflows, which doesn't exactly inspire confidence. On the plus side, it's far less expensive than other bed cooling systems I've used, such as the 8 Sleep Pod, the Dock Pro and the BedJet. The 8 Sleep Pod 5, for example, which I also just bought and will review later this year, currently costs around 10 times more. I really wanted the Adamson B10 to be good. Not everyone whose sleep is affected by heat can afford one of the higher end devices, so I wanted to be able to share a lower cost alternative. And that's the main reason that I decided to use this one in between using the Dock Pro, which I've been missing, and the 8 Sleep Pod 5 when it finally arrives. I also think it's useful for reviewers to have experience of a range of cooling products. As a very quick overview, it does work, just not as well as the more advanced bed cooling systems, but the evaporative cooling system actually did a better job than I was expecting. However, for me, there are some very obvious deal breakers. To illustrate some of the issues, let's go back in time and take a look at the setup process. The Adamson arrived in just one small box, containing the mattress pad, the main cooling unit and a few other parts. There's a useful remote control with batteries included, a water loop piece to turn it into a humidifier, a tiny spare drain plug that my Hoover would love to gobble up, a DC power adapter, which annoyingly has an American plug so I have to use a UK adapter, and a mostly easy to follow user manual. I was surprised by how light both the pad and cooling unit are. However, one reason the unit is so light is because the plastic casing isn't very solid. To set it up, I started with a waterproof mattress protector, just to be on the safe side. I then unrolled the mattress pad onto my side of the bed. It's only made in a twin size of 79 by 35 inches, so unfortunately that means it's wider than half of my UK king size bed. You can put it sideways for two people to share, but Irene doesn't like cooling, so I later hung the excess over my side as there are no water tubes in the first few inches anyway. There are actually two elastic straps to keep it in place, a useful feature I somehow missed when filming the setup. The two water tubes connect to the pad inside a fixed plastic encasement. It's another good reason to hang the pad over the edge, otherwise you'll feel the solid case in the night. Because my bedside table is lower than the top of the mattress, I had to do the alternative setup, and for that they recommend putting the cooling unit in a basin at first in case there's an overflow. The intake and outtake water tubes are very thin, with some loose fabric around them. I was very unimpressed by the low quality stitching and fit of the material. Connecting the tubes to the control unit was surprisingly difficult. I had to use a lot of twisting and force, and I was worried I was going to crush the entire unit in a Hulk moment. Eventually I got them on, but it would be far better to have a locking mechanism like the 8 Sleep or Dock Pro have. I then used a kitchen tie to tidy up the fabric. Still not pretty, but better. All in all, it felt more like assembling Lego than modern tech. The next step was to slowly fill the water reservoir with 2 litres or half a gallon of water. After that, plug it in and turn it on to pump the water into the pad. Then you add more water until you reach the 3/4 level on the indicator. The confusing part, however, is that if the bottom of the unit is lower than the top of your mattress, like mine, you're only supposed to half fill the water tank. The instructions then say that one of 3 scenarios will play out. Scenario 2 is that it overflows into the basin and you should fill less than half the next day. Fortunately, scenario 3 played out for me and nothing went wrong. Even though mine didn't overflow, which was a relief, there's still points about the design and setup that bother me. First of all, surely it would be better to quarter fill the reservoir to start with, and then if it doesn't overflow but doesn't last all night, then maybe add half the next time. Or better still, don't design it in such a way that it's so easy to accidentally add too much water and then have an overflow that goes through the unit. The manual says that the electronic components of the unit are water resistant, which you'd hope, but not designed to be submerged. So for me, the need to place it high up and the risk of overflows are probably the two biggest deal breakers. I'd prefer not to have something this size on my bedside table, and I can't help but feel concerned by the potential for leaks, both over my bedside table and over electrical components. Call me paranoid, but something feels a bit odd about that design. So why can't it sit at floor level, or better still underneath my bed frame? Well, I imagine one reason is that the water pump isn't strong enough, so they've enlisted the cheap labour of gravity to help the water circulate and to stop it draining out of the pad and into the unit when it's turned off. It's also important to understand that it's not a closed water system, and that leads into how it works. The Adamson doesn't actually actively cool the water to a set temperature. What it does is cycle the water in the mattress pad that's heated by your body back into the unit. It then passes through a cardboard filter and is exposed to the air and the fan so some evaporative cooling can take place. That's also why they recommend keeping your bedroom temperature below 76 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 degrees Celsius for optimal performance. So how well does that evaporative cooling system actually work? Well, as I said at the start, better than expected. The manual says it can cool the mattress by 6 to 12 degrees Fahrenheit or 3 to 7 degrees Celsius. To test that, on 2 different mornings I used my infrared thermometer gun to measure the temperature of the mattress pad where my upper body had been, one day with the pad and the next day without it. It's not a precise measurement, but you can see that it roughly demonstrates a difference of a few degrees Celsius. Sorry about the shaky camera and dark image, by the way. I literally rolled out of bed at 6 AM to quickly film this. In another test, I lay on each side of the bed for 1 hour without moving. Even from a distance, which is less accurate, you can see that the pad is a couple of degrees cooler than my memory foam mattress topper. And that does reflect what it's been like to actually use in my admittedly relatively cool bedroom. Sleeping on the pad is definitely cooler than lying directly on memory foam, and importantly, it seems to work throughout the whole night. It's not as cool as the 8 Sleep or Dock Pro though, which can get much colder as they actively cool the water, and the temperature of the bedroom has far less impact on them as well. As for how comfortable the pad is to lie on, I like how the cover is made from soft cotton. In fact, I'd say it's more comfortable to lie on than the 8 Sleep Pod 3 or Dock Pro pad were. The 8 Sleep pad was firmer and the Dock Pro was rougher. You can feel the silicone tubes if you go hunting for them, but I don't notice them when I'm in bed. The main problem though is that the pad can bunch up in the night, so most mornings I have to lift my bedsheet to reposition it, which is just a bit annoying. Okay, let's look at the controls now, which are exactly the same on the remote control and on top of the unit. It's important to understand that you can't choose a specific temperature. Instead, there are some options to control the fan speed. There are 4 speed levels for the fan, with the fastest fan speed cooling the water most. There's also a fan cycle adjustment button. D1 keeps the fan on. D2 and D3 turn the fan on and off every few minutes, which the manual says is useful if you feel too cold. But I found the change in noise very annoying. And D4 turns the fan off, leaving just the water pump running, which I do like. The thing is, it's really noisy on the fastest fan speed settings. I'm able to block it out with earplugs, but Irene hates the noise and she's been calling it the tractor recently. So we've been sleeping with the fan off. That means less cooling, but it's been enough to keep me feeling comfortable and I actually slept quite well on it. To give you an idea, here's a recording of my room noise and then the fan sounds. It takes my ambient room noise from just over 30 dBA to just over 50 dBA. Only the BedJet 3 on the maximum settings was louder, while the 8 Sleep and Dock Pro were both quieter. There are a few other features to mention. Firstly, you can use the water loop system piece to turn it into a humidifier. I haven't bothered with that because I want cooling, not a more humid bedroom. Secondly, there's a useful auto-off timer. This is the only programmable feature as there's no app with scheduling like you get with the 8 Sleep, Dock Pro or BedJet. The manual says you can set the timer from 0 to 24 hours, but I've only been able to make mine go up to 12. Still, having a timer is great. Finally, the negative ion function. I don't use it, and I'm a bit skeptical a device like this can affect your mood or sleep in the same way that natural settings can. And in case you're wondering, the red LEDs are very bright, so I always cover them at night. One of the best points about the Adamson is the incredibly low power consumption. The rated power in the specs is 8 watts, so it's very cheap to run. I left mine on for 12 hours on the max fan speed with nobody in bed, and it didn't even register 1 pence on my power meter. When I then ran it for 24 hours with me in bed with the fan off for 8 of those, it came to 2 pence, so on that front it's very cost effective to run. As for the maintenance requirements, it's quite similar to the Dock Pro, in that you have to regularly drain both the unit and the pad. However, you have to do it every 2 weeks ideally, which is even more frequent than the Dock Pro, and it is a bit of a hassle. Firstly, getting the tubes on and off is frustratingly slow. Draining the cooling unit is very easy because it's so light, which is good. But this is when I discovered another mini deal breaker. The drain plug is just a tiny piece that sticks into the bottom of the unit. There's no locking mechanism, and that makes me wonder how robust it will be in the long term. Draining the pad was a bit trickier because of the length of the tubes. You're meant to hang it up and leave it to drain and dry, but I just held mine over the bathtub. The mystery part was to wipe the honeycomb cardboard filter panel before putting it back in place. I interpreted that as removing the filter, but you can't easily open up the unit. I messaged their support about this, who told me I should only wipe down the exterior and not open it up. So I think the maintenance instructions could be improved. You can also add bleach once a month, but I haven't done that yet. Okay, before I give you my verdict, let's recap with the main pros and cons. Starting with the pros, it provides moderate cooling during the whole night. It's relatively affordable with no subscription fees. It's lightweight. It's easy to use with buttons on the unit and remote control. There's no Wi-Fi or Bluetooth connection if that's something you worry about. And the energy usage is very low. As for the cons, and this is going to take a bit longer, it's a large device that needs to be on a bedside table or shelf. You can't set specific target temperatures. It doesn't work as well in hot bedrooms. It's noisy with the fan on, but okay with just the water pump. It will leak if you add too much water, with the water running through the unit. Since water evaporates, the reservoir needs daily refills. The pad is comfortable, but it bunches up. It's fiddly to set up and clean. The drain plug and tube connection points don't have locking mechanisms, and it feels flimsy and cheaply made in places. My final verdict then is that the Adamson B10 bed cooling system is capable of providing some gentle cooling, but it failed to impress me in several key areas. Perhaps I'm hard to impress because I've spent years using the 8 Sleep, the Chilipad Dock Pro and the BedJet 3. But even if I hadn't, I still think I'd be concerned by the potential for leaks, the noise, the space it occupies on my bedside table, and the quality of some parts and connection points. Now, if you disagree and you're willing to tolerate the various issues I've mentioned to get a lower cost bed cooling system, then just keep a close eye on the returns window and an even closer eye on the water level indicator when you're filling it. And finally, I'd be very interested to hear from you if you've also tried the Adamson or any other lower cost bed cooling system. There are a few others sold online that I haven't had a chance to try, for example, so I'd love to hear from you if you have tried them. And if you have any questions or thoughts about the way the Adamson works, let me know in the comments below. It's always good to hear from you. And please also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already to keep in touch and see future reviews. Thanks for watching this one. Sleep well.